Hello, welcome to United Hour, your official redcafe.net podcast for all things Manchester United. My name's Imran.
I'm Colm.
And that's it, just us two. We are the only two dumb idiots that want to talk about this game. This game being Man United 0, Crystal Palace 0. We're recording straight after the game. A dreadful game of football. I don't think there's any way we can dress this one up, but we'll try our best to make it entertaining for you. No promises off the back. Cole, how soul-destroying was that on a scale of 1 to 10?
That was a really, really tough watch. I'd give it a solid 9.5. I mean, it was just painful from start to finish. It's really tough to watch United when it's like that. You know, there's a lot of things that you can get upset about and frustrated about because of your team. But one thing that should never be acceptable is being absolutely mind-numbingly bored out of your skull watching a game of football. Like, it's just painful. It's so bad. It's the cardinal sin as far as I'm concerned, because if I'm bored, like, it just, and that's been a thing for the last, I've felt for at least a month or two now, that there, you know, the excitement of watching United has been draining away. And I don't know if it's just because City have run away from it and we've kind of slipped back, or whether it's because the football's getting a lot less exciting to watch, or because there's so much football, you know, 2-3 times a week now, that it's kind of just a bit like overkill. But I just don't feel that buzz to watch Manchester United. And when you have games like that, where I'm literally going to spend about 82 minutes of the match looking at my phone rather than the TV screen, like, it's just so bad.
I think my go-to phrase this year is "football happened," and yeah. I think more than anything tonight, football apparently happened. I mean, I couldn't even see half the football because of the bloody...
I mean, I could see one half of the... I could see the near side. Whatever the near side was, I could see in Resplendent Glory. And the Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford and the ball on the far left in the second half were a mystery to me.
I mean, I was thinking, imagine if fans were in and there were flares going off. I think they'd have to stop the game. Like, you wouldn't be able to see a thing.
I cannot wait. Cannot wait for fans to come back, because that performance should be booed from about the 40th minute onward consistently. Like, it's so bad. Well, but the fog was actually the best crack about that whole thing.
The Martin Tyler and Gary Neville, let's call him Gary Neville.
Gary's Navel.
Gary's Navel, Seamaster extraordinaire. We're speaking. I mean,
Aaron Levin. Go ahead. Sorry, I
had some sympathy for them this game because they really had to reach for subjects to talk about. And one of the subjects they fell on was, apart from Andros Townsend scoring a goal for England 5 years ago.
And being good for England when Gary Neville was also playing for England. I did think that was odd. The other thing I found myself focusing on throughout the match was Luke Shaw's titties, which Luke Shaw's the only player in zebra white tonight that I think comes out with any credit other than Dean Henderson. But the shape of that man is, like, you know, it's crazy. Clearly his best form has coincided with us and our dietitians just letting him eat Cheetos all night and do whatever he wants. Like, it's crazy. It's genuinely crazy, the shape of it. But again, fantastic. Created 50 chances in the season so far from left back, which is the most of any fullback in the Premier League. He's been exceptional, and he was doing his best tonight in a sea of abject performances.
Clearly our best player. We'll focus on him in a bit. Although I will say that wet hair rain doesn't really suit him. I think little strands coming off the top. I did notice that. Yeah. But the point I was going to make was, do you think if the fans were in that stadium, that sort of game would have even been allowed? I mean, Palace at the best of times is quite a raucous place, and I just don't. I mean, players should be used to it and stuff like that. But do you really think that? Yeah, I just can't help but think it would have been a bit of a more intensity in that game.
I just think you get a few moments at least. You know, a few more moments. I think the game might just have the same. I mean, listen. Recent performances against Palace, we probably should have seen this coming. I mean, that is the Roy Hodgson MO, particularly against big teams, and they do it extremely well. Their goal there is to make the game like that, essentially, particularly at the moment with kind of injuries they have to their attacking lineup, just made it all the more certain. But I think with crowd there, you get a few more moments. I don't think our players would be allowed to just dawdle around the way that Rashford particularly was just kind of so abject and you know, really a poor attitude in that second half, I felt. And I just think that would have been picked up a little bit, although I think the pattern of the game would have largely been the same.
There was a moment in the second half, in about 85 minutes, ball went out for a throw in, and Bailly wanted to take the throw. No one was moving. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was holding his hand out saying, "Give me the ball." Bailly was trying to take this throw in, and it took him about 10 seconds, and no one cared. No one was bothered, and it just basically sums us up.
It does sum us up, and it sums us up in many ways. I think in some ways we're such a naive and odd, we have such an odd collection of footballers that are all pretty good at football, but just lacking in any kind of awareness or footballing intelligence. Sometimes, like, the right back does not have to take the throw and just like start the game again, and it just seems, I think, to seep in. And I think it's even now infecting like Bruno, and that's kind of something we spoke about before. Early in his United career, we were like, how long do you think it'll take us to kind of bring him down to our level and stop him doing all those cool things that he's loving to do at the moment? And to me, it seems like we're witnessing it, whether that's fatigue or just, just dropping to our level. Like, it's just, I just think, top teams just wouldn't let that game just pass by and, for large swathes, let Palace dominate the ball. Like that, the first 10, 15 minutes of the half, we could barely get a kick. Like, it is mystifying to me how we can just be such a Jekyll and Hyde team that just refuses to turn up for halves, full 90 minutes, away days, whatever it is. It's just so, everything about this United team is fits and starts. It's the sublime to the absolute banal.
I mean, this was a 6th 0-0 draw in the league this season, which equals the number of 0-0 draws we've had in the league if you combine the previous 3 seasons. So that's, and I mean, I mentioned this in our chat, and then you came up, you said you were surprised because of how, well, not surprised, but it's just, we scored so many goals, and yet you have this. It's like there's 2 different Uniteds almost.
I just think it's clearly the people we have available. I think when we lose 1 or 2 players, it makes a dramatic impact. Our team, I think Fred and Matic has been proven to be a disastrous centre midfield partnership for us. I think it completely changes and slows the way we want to play, and we turn into this zombie, let's pass it around the 20-yard line team that does nothing quickly. So I think that's a big problem. But I think you could draw quite a lot of parallels between those 0-0s and who was available and those kind of, well, the 9-1, the 4-1s, those kind of more fluid attacking performances, and also just totally how teams set up against us. And I do just think that it surprises me a little this year that not many more teams have done what Palace have done very successfully. Don't get me wrong, quite a few teams have done it to us, but not as many as I would have expected. And I do think that if teams kind of really sit off us, get into that strict shape, and basically allow us to walk it up to the edge of the box and progress it slowly, we'll say, yes, please, we will like to do that. And then we'll get there, and it will just go from side to side to side to side to side. And the fullbacks and the wingers don't have the partnerships. The midfielders aren't progressive enough, and we just kind of bog down at that point. And I think that makes us very easy to play against. And then you're hoping for a moment of magic or a random cross into the box. But that to me is a really good way to nullify this United team that I'm surprised we haven't seen more of really this season. But yeah, it is crazy that we've had so many 0-0 draws, and yet I think only City have scored more. And I get that there's that 9-goal Southampton game, which is padding that slightly. But even if you take all those goals out or only give us a 3-0 win there, we're still likely second or third in that list anyway, still, Like, who scored those goals? I can't even think now who has scored all those goals,
I mean, this was a game where a lot of people were saying, especially at halftime, I think Andy Cole was saying it in the studio and elsewhere, I'm sure it's not really, it's a very obvious point, but we are really missing Paul Pogba. Not a sentence I thought you'd say at the beginning of the season, but it is the case now. Pogba in a game like that does something, unlocks something, and that's the kind you need. We're missing top form Martial, who's been missing for a while now. And frankly, we mentioned it on the last pod I was on with you, that our squad just looks so thin at the moment. You look at our bench options today. Who can you bring on? You're looking at James and McTominay, and then you could maybe take a punt on Ahmad, but I mean, that is what it is. It's a punt, and there's just nothing.
It's crazy because, like, literally 2 months ago, you were looking at the bench and thinking, I've rarely seen a United bench so strong. Martial was on the bench, McTominay was on the bench, Fred was on the bench, Matic was on the bench. You had, like, Mata there. Now all those players are either playing and there's no one to step in behind them, or just gone. Obviously, Martial picked up a knock in training. He's horribly out of form anyway, but it's mad how we've gone from looking like such a deep squad to such a thin squad so quickly. And surely it is indicative of a difficult season with lots of games and all that. And it is important to keep reminding ourselves of those kind of excuses, which is what they are, but they're valid. They absolutely are valid. The injuries to key players, the number of games coming thick and fast, and I think that can account for some of this malaise. But I just expect Ole to get more out of them, and for me, that raises a concern. It's not, as I said at the start, there's one thing that I think a lot of fans will not accept, and it's being bored to tears.
Yeah. I think, for me, injuries, especially everyone's getting injuries this season. I mean, it's something I don't even think about just because I expect injuries to happen because it's happening to everyone else. I mean, Leicester have basically half their team out.
But then, and they've struggled then. They've dropped points.
Exactly.
Liverpool have dropped points. Really, the only team that can cope with it is City because their B team is as good as their A team, and it's just a wonderous interchanging of any given player that Guardiola wants to pick.
You could say that our two best players, Bruno and Rashford, aren't injured and playing, and they're just not. Well, like days like today, when they don't turn up, then there really is no hope for us, really.
Absolutely. I mean, I do think there's an over-reliance on them. However, that's not to excuse how bad they both were. I mean, Rashford in particular, I've obviously the last few weeks been saying, look, there's a lot of good in his performance and, there's really no one else trying to do anything and he's the one we always look to. I mean, today we should just stop looking at him. He really should have been taken off probably. It was genuinely abysmal. And we get that, but there's just not enough people contributing,
Yeah, there's not. I mean, Kouyaté got man of the match from Sky fairly, but then he basically got man of the match for being a competent defender. Like
he's not even a centre back. I mean, he's doing quite well there, but
he is. But it's not like we give him a big test, is it? We didn't push him to his limit or anything.
We didn't catch them on the break at all. Like there's also the big part of it where Palace just decided they weren't going to engage in too much of a game of football today. Like it wasn't kind of swashbuckling. But even when we had that space to move into, our touches and our general passing was so poor. Everything was just off all the time. And there was times, particularly in the first half, when the open space was there and we just completely failed to kind of capitalize on it. And then after that, what are we actually offering for them to deal with? These kind of 1-2s that are ending up going out the byline because they've been overhit or miscontrolled. Pretty aimless crosses into the box. Okay, we made a few good. I actually thought we should have crossed the ball a lot more. I think that's something that kind of needs to be addressed by Ole, is that when we are getting a certain look from another team, we have to know that we have to try something different. Greenwood put in a few really good crosses, but he could have put in a dozen more. You have Cavani in the box who will convert some of those chances. Shaw had a period in the sort of 10 minutes in the first half where he was excellent at his balls into the box, created chances for Rashford and for Bruno, which was brilliant. But then we do it for like 10 minutes and then we just let another 30 minutes in the game pass by without ever going back to that clearly successful tactic against the team that sat in. To me, again, that comes back to the coaching. I just don't know that there is necessarily a plan and we're just so reliant on individual quality and go out there and express yourselves without actually a real precise way of breaking these kind of teams down.
Cavani, he's come back a few times this season from injury, suspension, one, and I think every time he comes back, he does take his body takes a while to get used to it. Especially at the beginning of the season, he looked really rusty. So I assume it won't take that long this time, but I wasn't really expecting much from him just because based off this season, he's not looked at his sharpest when he's just come back from an injury, and he really was off the boil today. He wasn't really doing much at all. I thought Greenwood was probably our best of the three attackers, but that's not saying much. He was trying, but nothing really. Yeah, I mean, he had that one good shot at the end, and that was about it, really.
He had a little snapshot in the first half as well.
The deflected.
I thought in general he just seemed sharp again. I think his general build-up play, shielding of the ball, and the way he can kind of beat a couple of players and then move it around. And a few good balls into the box, but not enough over the 90, which is forgivable, I think, for Greenwood. But I do want to start seeing that. I just see his all-around game getting better and better and better. I just want him to be involved far more, but I do think there's a systemic problem there in terms of us only wanting to play down the left and Wan-Bissaka being absolutely desperate for football behind him. So, it's tricky. But I just want to see more from him now because I feel like it is going to come for Greenwood. Goals are going to start falling and he's just generally going to be involved more because I still see his all, even tonight, as shocking as we were, I still thought his all-around game looked a lot more polished than last year and stuff like that. I do see him really coming on in that sense, but he just needs to take that next step in terms of kind of graduating into the team a bit more and taking more ownership of certain situations and kind of demand the ball a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I'm struggling for points to think. We touched on Luke Shaw. He did have a good game. Another one. He is basically, in times like this, he's basically our main creative force. Where just down that left-hand side, constantly running, putting balls in, putting good crosses in. He put in a good one, which unfortunately Dan James was on the end of. Smallest man in the world.
Has to do better. Has to do better.
You can tell he's a man who never heads the ball from that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, he's a professional footballer, and heading is still very much something that should be worked on. Like, I think he just almost tries too much to get that glance on it when he doesn't actually need to, because he has the other side of the goal. But yeah, Luke Shaw was. I mean, I feel like he sort of dulled as the game went on, but he was consistently the one that if you thought a breakthrough was going to come, it was going to be Luke Shaw, and that's been him all season. I was very, very concerned when he went down from his ankle in the first sort of 10 minutes, but luckily there didn't seem to be an issue there because you would miss him.
And I guess the other one would be Dean Henderson, who came in for De Gea, who I think injured De Gea.
I don't think so. I think he's away. I think his wife's about to give birth. So I think Ole just said it was personal reasons. So hopefully that's all okay. But I think she is extremely near due. So I assume that's what it is. Because I think she lives in Spain most of the time.
She's a pop star, isn't she? This is where this podcast has got to. We're going to talk about De Gea's relationship.
But yeah, I thought Henderson was brilliant. There was
he claimed
a cross in the first 10 minutes. Yeah, where I think it was Tyler referenced that they're packing him out here. It's going to be a big test, and he just sailed out of his 6-yard box and collected it, which just made me really happy. It was brilliant to see. Absolutely, almost worth that 90 minutes. And then he had that big stop at the end. Yeah.
Which was probably the biggest chance of the game. And once again, it didn't fall to us, the biggest chance of the game. Patrick Van Aanholt, who's actually a decent finisher. I genuinely thought he was going to score. Like, I'd resigned myself to him putting it in. I was
certain. He scored one against us, I think, last season in the last minute. Do you remember when we...
Yes, at Old Trafford.
Was that last season? Yeah.
Lost 2-1 at Old Trafford, yeah.
He squeaked one in kind of at the near post right at the end, just after we'd equalised or something. It was an absolute farcical goal, and I just thought it was shades of this, horrible. But Henderson did extremely well.
Yeah.
Aside from that, he was commanding and came out sharply to kind of smother a few things.
Yeah.
And generally looked like he was trying to get more things started than all of the outfield players,
Well, I think because that is literally where our positivity ends. I thought everyone else was shocking to really shocking. I thought Fred had probably his worst game I've seen him have for about 2 years.
Yeah, he was desperate.
And I don't know whether that's tiredness or just him and Matic just do not go well together. Maybe it's because they both have left foot, so I don't know.
I think the both left-footed thing is definitely part of it because you're not getting that natural switches out to the right-hand side in any way, shape or form. And it just centres us far too much down the left. However, it's also weird because stylistically you'd think they probably should match up quite well, but it just doesn't. It makes us so slow and ponderous. I think it puts a lot more impetus on Fred to kind of get forward, which never really actually goes that well. It's McTominay straight away. You see it when he comes on is so much better, making those runs, carrying the ball, receiving the ball when he's there, and kind of linking up. And Matic is a funny one. He's such a safe pair of hands. I think on the ball when he gets time, he is actually quite progressive. You see him kind of threading through quite a lot of balls and always kind of whipping it out kind of pretty well. I just think off the ball, and particularly when other people have the ball, he doesn't show for the ball and he doesn't move. He just wants to play the game stand still, which is fine because he's ancient, but it just doesn't work anymore. And I just think it's so notable. The tempo of our play just drops massively. Even though he's good on the ball and kind of makes us very secure and controlling, I don't think that really helps this United side because it just lets the team we're playing against get set in, and you just end up seeing what we saw tonight. That's pretty tragic.
Well, on the plus side of things, Crystal Palace haven't done the double over us, which means
just the 4 points.
Yeah,
they've secured.
The only team that can do the double over us now is Spurs. So there's a thing. If we avoid losing to Spurs, then yeah, no one's done the double over us. So that's worth a trophy, right? I think that's a trophy at the end of the season.
That's not bad.
The other one is 21 games away from home unbeaten. Now still going on this run.
Yeah.
Feels like it doesn't mean much when you're drawing 0-0 to Palace, but it is a thing. We're avoiding defeat. I guess the big test comes when we go to the Etihad on the weekend, but we'll get to that game shortly. I'm searching for positives, but they're about the two I can get. I guess what's the reaction you want to see from this? It's hard to say really though, because I don't really see how it's going to change unless suddenly people start picking up form. Or we get players back when Pogba gets back.
Exactly, it has to be one of the two, or Ole has to change the shape or something. The one thing I did think was that the changes came way too late. I thought McTominay and James both made a really positive impact, so they probably should have been given more time. I think Fred particularly was struggling very early on in that second half, and I don't think there would have been any issue with taking him off around the 60th minute or before. But he might look to that. I think it's odd because obviously we've got the Manchester Derby coming up here, which is like a game in its own right. You know, I don't think you carry much into it, or certainly you take stuff away from it. But I don't think us hammering Crystal Palace would have put us in any more good stead for the game, because the kind of game we play against City is going to be completely different to the kind of game we've just played against Palace. So it is a funny one, but yeah, we need players back, and because I genuinely don't think there's much to be done with things the way they are now. I think it is pretty much just a rut now, and I don't think that those players currently are going to be able to kind of lift themselves out of that. I think they needed someone else to come in and kind of help them with that and change something in the way we're playing.
I mean, we'll get to the City game soon, but we have basically dragged ourselves into a bit of a top four battle now. Whereas at one point in the season it looked like we might be going for a 2-horse title race, but that's obviously not happened. But we are 1 point ahead of Leicester. If West Ham win their game in hand, they'll be 3 points behind us. And Chelsea will be 4 points if they win there. So we are kind of dragging ourselves into it a bit when we really should have been careering ahead. And we've got some tough games coming up. Are you worried about our top four status?
I am. Just, to add cheeriness onto this podcast, but I really am. I have this horrible vision that in 3 to 4 weeks, or by the end of March, we could be fourth or out of the top four. I genuinely can conceive that. That's how bad I think it is at the moment. I think when you look, I think Chelsea under Tuchel have, barely dropped any points. I think that's a bad omen. I think Liverpool will turn around at some page. They're just, I think, a point behind Chelsea, so they're very much still there. West Ham and Leicester, I mean, we should have moved away from these teams in this kind of last month or 6 weeks, and it just hasn't happened. And, those teams have been dropping points as well, which has kept us second by, a point versus Leicester. But it's just super, super, super disappointing because tougher games are coming, and I just fear that that's going to cause a big issue. So,
yeah,
I think with the way the season's gone, and the position we are in and we're in, I think anything less than comfortably second is a huge red flag. And of course, we have to wait to the end of the year and assess it then. But at the moment, it is very concerning. And I would, that would, to me, that coupled with kind of performances like this does kind of rear those old issues around. Not that Ole hasn't done a tremendous job to put us where we are. Like, the progress is undeniable. The question then becomes, where's the ceiling? And that's the kind of the big question.
Yeah. I definitely think we should wait to the end of the season, see where we fall. But I actually think we will turn it. I think we have this very weird habit of, I say weird, it's a good habit, I guess, of putting a run together when we need one. I guess it's something we have been doing, especially under Ole. Like, when we need that run, we put it together and we get what we need just about. So I can see us doing that. Don't know how, don't know why. Maybe it'll be people coming into form or squad returning or whatever it'll be. I think it can just see it happen. So we'll touch on the City game. I think, just to say, after the City game, we've got West Ham at home, which actually becomes quite a big game, really, with the form that they're in and stuff. But we'll get to that. But yeah, City away is looking a bit ominous now with the form that they're in. Won 4-1 against Wolves, 1-1 at 79 minutes, 4-1 at 94 minutes. They're looking really good. It's a horrible thing to say about Man City, but they are looking very, very good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's tough. It's tough to watch. Sorry, I was just looking at the XG from this match. 0.58 for Manchester United, 0.74 for Crystal Palace.
Sounds about right.
City...
thank God for us that Benteke tried to do every single overhead kick he could, trying to recreate that goal he scored against Liverpool several years ago.
You always feel comfortable with Benteke receiving chances.
I know.
But yes, City
the other week when he scored that volley against Brighton, I thought, which god must Brighton have pissed off for Benteke to score that volley?
That's his one for the year. Yeah.
When that's going over Lewis Dung's head and he sees it falling to Benteke, he's like, thank God for that. It's only Benteke.
Especially in the context of that game. Absolutely brutal. But yeah, in a strange way, I'm looking forward to the City game. They're on such a good run that I feel like we might beat them. That kind of funny thing in football where the thing that shouldn't really happen just kind of is destined to happen.
Like the 3-2, obviously, Sanchez, Smalling, Pogba.
Exactly, game. Yeah. But they're looking at breaking most wins in a row kind of territory, and certainly cantering away with the league without any issue or anyone to even we're all just flies basically to City at the moment, which is hard to swallow. But like, there's like even that comment that Guardiola had last week, and some were like, "Oh, how come you can be on this great run?" He's like, "Oh, because we spend loads of money on the world's best footballers." I'm like, yeah, I suppose. Like their bench, their squad, their options that they have. I mean, the amount of players that they can not play and still create such good attacking football is just silly. It's sad, to be honest.
Well, their front six, it's just which random 6 players shall I pick today? There might not be a striker, there might not be a defensive midfielder. Who knows? Let's just pick 6 of them and we'll see what happens.
Any one of them would be an instant starter and probably our best player, like minus Bruno. If you take Bruno out of it,
yeah, it's.
I don't think honestly. I know they don't really still like is Jesus a number 9, all that kind of stuff, but like Bernardo Silva, Gundogan,
they got through half the season with that one.
Mahrez, Foden, Sterling. I mean, that new fella whose name I can't remember at the moment.
Torres.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's not even getting a look in. It's crazy. It's genuinely crazy. It's silly.
You got Foden looking like a world beater. Gundogan deciding he's actually a goal machine. It's crazy. And then
they fixed their defence, which was always the kind of get out of jail free card. You say, well, they have all those nice attacking players, but they're like the leakiest ship that ever was, and they're kind of silly in the way they defend. And now they've got like the Premier League's best defender as well. Absolutely horrendous for us all. But I would actually say I do kind of feel.
Well, DS has been. I think João Cancelo's been incredible. I would put him as player of the year, João Cancelo. Fantastic football.
For City or just overall?
Just overall. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
Nah, I think he's good. I don't think he's that good. He hasn't actually, as much as he hasn't actually like got all the goals and assists, I think that he probably could have done. But then like Luke Shaw just keeps putting unbelievable chances on all our forwards' heads, and he doesn't have a whole pile of assists either.
True. But I think he just looks like one of those footballers who can just do everything, even though he's a fullback.
Yeah. But I do kind of fancy us for a little bit of a Dan James special. It'll be interesting to see what way Ole plays it. I think with the kind of form we're in, I think we're seeing a return to the counter-punching, work hard Manchester United versus big clubs. I do think, and it's part of the reason why we've had so many 0-0 draws and poor results against the big teams, I do think we've sort of tried to go at it differently this year in terms of actually playing football against the big teams, which I encourage, absolutely. And I think it's been the right move. So, that kind of awful record versus the top 6 and some of the poor results in Europe haven't actually really bothered me as much long term, because I think it's progression towards actually, playing these teams of football and being better than them.
Well,
but I think we'll absolutely put that in the bin for this weekend.
Well, we have got a good record at the Etihad, it's worth saying. We won there last year. That's when we won 2-1. We went there early in the season and blew them away with our counter-attack. But then that's when Guardiola kind of wised up to our counter-attacking and kind of sit back a bit.
Shut that down, yeah.
Yeah, and then the last game we played against them, League Cup, we've had the 0-0 at Old Trafford earlier in the year, boring game. And then the League Cup game was actually a very good game, actually, the 2-0, where I thought we played well, and they were just a bit better than us, and I thought that was a good game.
Those two games were like the same week, wasn't it? They were like
the League Cup game was a bit later, I think. There was a bit of a gap. So yeah, I don't really know how this game's going to go. I could see City blowing us away, but then I could also see us like catching them cold, just as we do, like turning up when you least expect it, like you said, and just getting that result. So with all that said, it'll probably be 0-0, won't it?
It probably will be a 0-0. 0-0 with them camped outside our box for a change. But yeah, as you say, it just at the moment, and you do put it absolutely correctly, where it's kind of out of the blue and when you least expect it, which absolutely would be now, because I just find it so hard to imagine at the moment that we're going to click in any way, shape or form. It just, even the kind of tried and tested Sean Rashford, Bruno through to his players just seems such hard work at the moment. It just doesn't seem to be there in any way, shape or form. So it's kind of hard for me to even say, oh yeah, I could see us catching them on a break a few times with like Bruno slipping through Rashford and Rashford just devastating them and all that kind of stuff, because the players just seem absolutely devoid of any ideas. But it's a huge game, because a win would be absolutely unbelievable. I mean, as you say, City then West Ham, it's and that's why I kind of am skeptical that we might not be second at the end of March, because it is such a huge month here now. I think this is going to really have a strong say in how the Premier League season ends up anyway.
Yeah, well,
for us, I mean, it's going to end with City winning, obviously.
I mean, a lot of our football falls upon the whims of Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, like their whim of doing something incredible, beating a man, scoring a goal, putting in a through pass, whatever it be. So you can never write us off for the pure fact that if they decide to do something, if Rashford decides to get it down, beat a man and whip it in, then hey, we're golden. And if Bruno decides I'm going to score a free kick or put it in from 20 yards, we're also golden. So we're such a bizarre team.
We are. And I just think that's kind of the thing that kind of fills me with a little bit of dread. I think Ole needs to buy well this summer because there's just not enough people at the moment to share that, or players just need to step up. Like I do, as I said before, I do think Greenwood's going to make that step. I do think Cavani gives us something, even though I think we need an actual number 9. And I think there's definitely there's just 100% a ball playing. Obviously, it's Pogba at the moment, but even generally, regardless of what his future is, there's just a ball playing centre midfielder missing from that team. It's so clear. I watched the Leicester game and I saw Tielemans, who we could have had for a snip, and I just think you would walk into our team and we would be so much better for it. And it wasn't a difficult signing to make. He was in fact holding out for United before he re-signed with Leicester or made that move permanent. And apparently we basically had given us first refusal and we didn't want it. And I just think that kind of player, and with that real cunning and guile and ability in the middle of the park, we have a lot of centre midfielders who give you a lot of good things, but none of them really give you enough, particularly against the teams that are sitting in.
Well, I can only see us really signing one if we let Pogba go, which I'm not even sure how likely that is at the moment.
You mean a centre midfielder will only sign if Pogba leaves?
If a centre stroke defensive midfielder, I can only see it's happening if Pogba leaves. Because apart from that, I still feel we need a centre back, we need a backup right back, maybe a goalkeeper, right winger, and a centre forward. And I can only really see us signing 3, maybe 4 players this summer, maybe at max. And I reckon that will probably be a centre back, a right back, and either a right winger or a centre forward. Is my guess. I'm not sure. It depends how we let go. It's an interesting summer we've got ahead, I think.
It is, but I actually find it hard to see us signing, I think 2, maybe 3. And I don't even think they'll be
we usually do 3
marquee signings.
It's usually been 3 under Ollie, hasn't it? This year it was what?
It'll be interesting to see, obviously, with COVID impact and what Ed's going to come out and say, kind of thing, because I think they'll see that they do need it, if they want the team to do anything in the next year. Ole's contract situation is also quite interesting in that it runs out at the end of next year. And they haven't, so far, I don't believe, tabled any kind of extension or anything like that. So that's kind of interesting that he might be, next summer might be his last time to kind of buy players to really achieve something in the kind of third year culmination of his plans. Maybe they're content enough and they know he's going to sign on for longer.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing with Ole, isn't it? We're not really looking over our shoulder someone stealing him from us, are we? Because he would stay here till the last week.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's pressure that they might feel with other big name managers or whatever, which is totally fair. But I just think games like that tonight just do, and the kind of thinness of the squad, injuries accepted. I don't think anyone expected Martial to be this bad this year, so I do have some sympathy. There are bad things happening there that Ole can't really be, criticised for. I don't think that's just a huge issue with Martial that is just taken away such a big player from your team, a lot of goals and all that kind of stuff, and you can't just find those anywhere else. So, but it's just shaping up to be such a big summer, I think, because it was so boring today, so boring.
Well, we managed to get 30 minutes out of it, so I think we deserve a medal of anything.
Yeah, we're the Dean Hendersons in this situation.
We're the real man of the matches, guys. Forget Kayate. We have done this for you. So be grateful. Be grateful and leave us a review. Or, don't, but whatever. I think we've done 30 minutes. I think that's enough, unless there's anything more to talk about, really.
No, again, the fog, pretty cool.
The fog was extraordinary. At some point, I wondered
if memory of this game.
At some point, I wondered if the fire alarm was going to go off, and I thought that might be entertaining.
I was like, are they going to bring out the yellow ball for the second half? This is,
high vis kit.
I can barely see what's happening.
We could talk about our kit. That kit is dreadful. Every time I see it, I think, that's
do you know what really surprised me about that kit? Why do they make it too big for all the players? Like, I just kind of assumed that all kits now are kind of those like tight sleeve kind of situations. Not like the Arsenal Giroud days where it was literally like, we're just going to vacuum pack this on to all of our players. As
what, more like the Arsenal Nicolas Anelka days in the 90s where it was like a dress.
Yeah.
I was in message of that.
I thought now I would achieve like a happy medium of just sitting nice and flush against the skin, the nice slim fit. But those zebra t-shirts are like, Rashford's looked about 8 sizes too big for him. It was ridiculous. I hate it.
It's also just a hideous shirt, and I'd be happy if we never wore it, but what can you do?
Yeah. Also, I don't associate any good games with it, I can't think of any games where we've maybe played really well in.
It's not one we'll look back with nostalgia. Oh, do you remember that? Remember when we wore that kit in that 0-0 draw at Selhurst Park?
Do you know my favourite kit that I like to look back on? The Gingham.
I loved the Gingham.
Van Persie wore when we won. Yeah.
No one else did. I really liked it.
See when that came out, everyone was like, it looks like a dishcloth. This is the worst thing that's ever happened.
I loved it.
And
still have it in my cupboard.
Love that kit.
Big fan of that kit. We're talking about Selhurst Park. I always remember the green and yellow kit I associate with Selhurst Park. I associate with that Cantona volley. But I think it was against Wimbledon when they were playing at Selhurst Park. But that was a good memory. So we'll leave you with that memory, everyone. Well, a good memory. But yeah, thanks for listening. As always, catch us on Twitter, United_hour. Catch us on Instagram. Give us a follow on there too. Get yourself on our Patreon if you can. If you sign up, it's the beginning of the month, so it's a good time to do it. And you'll get to hear me and Colm talk about Jesse Lingard. What more could you want?
Can he play against us? I take it he can't.
No, he can't. No. I think if it was a cup game, he could or something, but I'm not sure. Or it was in Europa. He could, I think. I don't know. I'm not a Chelsea fan, so I don't know what the rules on loans are. So,
very fair.
But yeah, no, you can listen to that. We spend a good 20 minutes talking about Lingard's highs and lows and just what a lovely, lovely man he is. So yeah, get yourself on that, and obviously get yourself over to the Red Cafe as well. Sign up to the forum and post in our thread and tell us what a terrible, terrible job we did of recapping a terrible, terrible game of football. We'll be back after the City game, but until then, say goodbye, Colm.
Cheerio.
Cheers, guys.